Welcome to MotoGeo, and this is the review of the new Yamaha Tracer 9 GT. Well, what do we have here from Yamaha? An absolutely new motorcycle. Well, apart from the front brake rotors from the previous model, this bike is totally new. And they've done that by using the awesome engine from the MT09 and chassis, changing out the length of the swinging arm. The swinging arm is now longer, and also changing out the subframe. So that awesome power plant from the MT09 is still here, and it's a great engine. I found that the engine really, for me, is almost like two different parts. Below 7,000, it's just a really manageable engine. But this is a sport tourer. Get it above 7,000 and this thing just takes off, and it's almost like a whole different bike. The MT stands for maximum torque, and it really does deliver maximum torque at above 7,000, really changing the tune of this motorcycle, the power delivery, and it just takes off. And for me, there's loads of fun to be had with a motorcycle once it's also singing above 7, really becoming a sporty motorcycle. Now, suspension wise, fully active KYB front and rear suspension. All new, and I have to say, it feels good. It is actually pretty stiff. I was actually surprised of how stiff the suspension was. It's got two modes. The one being most aggressive, number 2 being a little softer. Even for in number 2, the softer mode, it was still a pretty firm motorcycle. I'm not too sure if when you're riding slower and more relaxed, you might want even a softer bike, but go the other way, knock it down a couple of pegs, get it stuck into some corners, and this fully active suspension really does stiffen up. And in the stiffer mode, it feels really planted around the corners. Okay, it's got a great engine, but the delight in this motorcycle is also the chassis. What I like about this bike is the way it holds its line in a corner. Going through Angeles Crest today, there's lots of really long corners. This bike really is very easy to change direction. It's very easy to hit your points of where you want to be on track. And if you are on the road and you've made a mistake, it's also very easy to rectify. And that for me is the sign of a really good motorcycle. Now what we have up here is pretty much the first motorcycle I've ever ridden that has a double display. Most of the time it's just one single TFT display. Here we have two from Yamaha. Now there's bags of information on there. I've been riding the MT09, which has quite a small dash and loads of information. So what they've done here on the Tracer is split that information up and put half of it on one side and half of it on the other. However, I do find that the information that you can select and put it over onto this right screen isn't always the information that I was really looking for, because I was changing my modes and my settings for suspension, ABS and rider modes. That was only available in the bottom left-hand corner, and it is pretty small. It would be great if they could also put that traction control, rider mode and ABS information on this right screen too. Also, what's kind of quite strange about that is once you've selected, let's say, one of the modes to go over to the right screen, you can still have it on the left screen as well. And I found that today I could actually put it and have the fuel gauge showing 3 times in different positions all over the dash, which is obviously you don't need. But having said that, they are very clear. I did enjoy looking at the two displays. If the information on the left screen was available on the right screen, especially all of that small stuff of the traction control, that would be definitely a winner. Really like the screen here, easy adjustment. It goes up 50mm and you've got 10 notches of different adjustments. And it was very useful today when I wanted a bit more wind deflection on the freeway, and then when I wanted it down when the sun came out and I was on the twisties. Riding position, very comfortable. No fatigue at all on my hands, on my wrist, nothing like that. Really nice seating position with my hands. Now with the seat, we've got 2 different seat levels. The lower one is actually lower than the previous model, and then you can also lift it up and go a little higher. Tried both today. I preferred the higher seat position. I felt that the seat for me was a bit firm, I mean, at the end of the day, this is still a sport tourer. So when I look at touring, I'm talking about spending all day in the saddle. I've been riding this all day in the saddle today, and I have to say I would prefer a comfier seat. Surprisingly, back here the passenger seems to get the comfy seat, so that's not usually like that on most motorcycles. The passenger usually gets the raw deal and gets the plank of wood at the back, but not here. It's still wide enough, I just wish it was a little more comfortable. Big gas tank, so you can definitely click by those miles. We've got heated hand grips, pretty easy to use buttons around here. But this is another thing, which is a feature on many motorcycles these days, is how many buttons are available and what they do. And every bike is different. Every bike you come across has their own language of modes and bits and pieces, so it can also be very confusing. I find that the left handlebar here is just a ton of trouble. You've got a lot of buttons that look very similar, and it's a little chunky. Lots of modern bikes are the same. This is no different. It seems to be the trend right now because you've got loads of modes and different settings, and with that has just come an array of buttons, but simple. I'm old school. I just like my control simple and my dash also very simple. I feel like probably the older rider will be going for a bike like this, probably over 40 years old, and with that, I'm being over 40 myself, you know, everything starts deteriorating, your eyesight or whatever. So having big clear display and easy to find buttons is definitely a plus. Back here, we've got a pretty large subframe, easily accommodating a passenger, some big grab rails. And now here with the Tracer, we've got some big bags and also a top case that's available. The first time a top case has been available for the Tracer. So we've got lots of compartments here for luggage, some very slick buttons here and handles that disappear, and very easy to use with the key. So I find that the panniers definitely useful, and where you can just load them up and hit the road and go off for an adventure. Braking system wise, it's the same rotors and calipers on the old bike, with the new master cylinder that's the same Nissan master cylinder that's on the new MT-09. That's improved, and that improves the braking, but the braking on this bike I found to be really efficient, good feel coming back through the lever, very precise, good stopping power. I enjoyed the braking both front and rear. We've also got cruise control on this bike. I love bikes with cruise control. The older I get, I guess. Cruise control works very easily here. That was one of the buttons that I could find quite simply, but that was the one that was looking at me, whereas some of these further up are more hidden. Also long distance, nice wind guards here. It's a really relaxed riding position, like I said, and very little fatigue on a motorcycle like this. What you've got really from Yamaha with the Tracer is a completely new motorcycle, something that's very sporty, and I found today that the harder I rode it, almost like the better it was. It does cruise and it does ride really nicely, but it also definitely is a sport tourer. The firm suspension, the strong brakes, that magnificently powerful torquey engine, all of these elements put this bike together, it's in the sporty category. Then relax the riding position, allow different modes, creature comforts. Now we're in the touring, add some bags, great motorcycle. I'm a huge fan of the MT-09, and there's many components on this bike that's on the MT-09 as well. So Yamaha done a great job, like I said, great engine, chassis that you're just gonna fall in love with, and it's an easy ride. Thumbs up, good job Yamaha.